okay, well, I've been in the ring, I've been training, I've been dealing with life, I've been dealing with, work and family and relationships and stress and health and training and race cancellations, the economy and kids going back to school. It's not I quit doing it. It's I can't do it today because I know that I want to get back in the ring. Because the way that I think we should look at it is you keep getting back in the ring because listen, like at some point, if you keep getting back in the ring, you're going to be the only person left in the ring.
I'm ready to roll.
All right, let's roll then. Welcome aboard. This is Crushing Iron Podcast 399er. 99er, inching closer. Next Monday, we'll have episode 400. But hey, we appreciate you tuning in. Today is August 13th, 2020. And hey, like I said, appreciate you tuning in. We cover all things triathlon and all things life. We come to you twice a week, and we have been for what is now getting close to officially 4 years. It seems like 2 or 3, but now when you look back at it, it's been 4 years, 100 podcasts or 400 podcasts later. We're still here as both coaches and athletes. Mike and I we definitely do our best each podcast to go in depth and swim, bike, run. Sometimes we'll go real in depth in terms of training philosophy and background and outlines and really everything you need to know about triathlon in a simplistic way. At least that's our intent, is to deliver it in a simplistic way that you can digest it and apply it to your life. But a lot of times we'll veer off course. We might get off course, as you might say, and talk about life. And actually, neither one of us think that's off course. We both think that's really
triathlon is life,
right?
Life is triathlon is life. I think.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of similarities.
Let's face it, dude.
What are we facing?
It's a little tricky. I mean, it's always been tricky to only talk about triathlon, but now even more, it gets a little trickier now to keep hammering home. I mean, we could sit here and talk about that if you want.
About triathlon and hammering it home?
Hammering triathlon.
No, I mean...
Let's work on those hill repeats. Get out there.
No, listen, like that's definitely one of the... I mean, and listen, I'm always... generally speaking, I'm always trying to find positive spins and to be optimistic and half glass full, as I have been for what has been for pretty much everybody. A very, very rough 2020 in a lot of ways, with races getting canceled and all of the things that have been affecting people's lives. And, one of the best things I think that's come out of our podcast and the way that we started was that we really wanted to be, and both you and I, and just our general conversations, and which is kind of the genesis of the podcast, was that we just wanted to have an extension of what you and I would do. We'd get together in coffee shops at Portland Brew or wherever else. So we'd start off talking about triathlon and use it as kind of like a vessel to open up and kind of get comfortable in our conversations. And then we'd end up, 3.5 hours later talking about, life and kind of how,
exactly,
because triathlon is life. I mean, we say we don't want it to be, the only focus of our lives, but there are so many things that you can make analogies. And when you think about training and the ebbs and flows of training and good days and bad days and the analogies you can make and the journey and the process and racing, they're all over the place. I mean, that's like that with every sport. Sports are a great analogy, an example of life. And that's one of the things we started off doing was being comfortable and okay veering into things that, some people probably don't want to hear, which is, why aren't you, that's some of my favorite reviews. Why aren't you telling me about only triathlon things? Quit using the first 10 minutes of your podcast about banter. I don't even know what's going on right now. But that's kind of what we've always enjoyed doing, and triathlon's important, and it can be an important aspect of life, but it's definitely not the only aspect. And now with, the way that this year has gone with races being pretty much removed, I would say that, of all the athletes that we work with, I think 80% are probably already, kind of tuned out of it, not tuned out of this year, but they've already kind of accepted that races aren't going to happen for them this year. They've already deferred to next year. Their calendar is already basically in place, which again, it's frustrating to not be able to race this year for a lot of reasons, but I think there's also some removal of stress in knowing that you don't have to pay for anything else next year. Your races have been paid for in advance. You might have to wait a little bit longer, but it's just like it is. It's an unfortunate part of life right now, that we all have to deal with. But I think it's how we're dealing with it and the methods that we're using, hopefully in a positive way, to deal with it that really will set us, not just us, but us all, for, I don't want to say success or failure down the road, because those are a little too extreme, but it's gonna put you in a better place or not as good of a place down the road, depending on how you're able to handle and navigate this tough time. And it's super hard. Like, yesterday we had a rough day, and I use the example on a phone call with an athlete, and then as you and I were talking, and just kind of like, we both had a rough morning, and then, I was like, man, like these days it's like, and I thought about it more and more, in the last 24 hours, it's like every day right now, it's like getting up, putting on your boxing gloves and walking into the ring and just taking body shots after body shots after body shots. Now, some days it might be worse, sometimes it might be bad. You don't necessarily get knocked out, and you don't. And the hard part about it is you wake up the next day and you think, all right, do I really have enough in me to get up and step in the ring again and take some more body shots? Again, it's not knocking you out, but that's like, if we're watch boxing, and this is a great transition between our topic of speed cubing on Monday and now we're going into boxing today, is like most people, and they'll hit you with body shots all day, and then eventually you'll end up dropping your hands, which if you drop your hands, then you're going to open yourself up for the knockout punch. And that's what I think a lot of athletes and a lot of people are feeling right now, is they're just taking body shot after body shot after body shot after body shot. And there are two things are going to happen. They're eventually going to wake up one day and think, you know what, it's really not worth getting up out of the bed and hitting my training or going to work or pursuing my goals or participating in this journey, in this process, because I'm just going to keep taking body shots. And you know what? I'm just fucking tired of taking body shots. I don't want to do it anymore. So I'm just going to sit back. I'm not going to get in the ring. I'm going to sit back in the locker room and just chill. Or they're going to keep getting up, and they're not going to, really take care of themselves in the ways they probably can, and they're going to take a knockout blow. And I think that's what's so hard about right now, is not just the fact that you're taking body shots every day in some way, shape, or form, whether it's your job, whether it's your kids not going back to school, or the stress of them going back to school. I think that's like a very important topic to talk about, because so many of our athletes and our listeners have kids, is that there's always levels of stress. And so even if your kids aren't going back to school and they're going to learn virtually, you're relieved of some maybe fear that they're going to be in an uncomfortable, unhealthy situation at school, but then you're left to make sure, like, my kids are staying home. What if both parents work? How are we going to handle that? Or you're sending your kids to school, and that's going to cause you stress, because it's, like, how are you going to take care of your kids? How are they going to manage the stress and the changes at school? Because it's all different. And so you wake up each day and you get into the ring, and a lot of days you don't even know what the opponent is. You don't have like racing, like we know what the opponent is going to be a year down the road. And right now, so many athletes are waking up and they're questioning, and they're not waffling. I think they're doing a systems check of, do I really want to get back in the ring today?
Yeah, man. I love that analogy. It works so perfectly. And it's almost like you're getting in there, but you don't know how long the fight is. Normally it's 15 rounds, but this is like, it's all of a sudden it's turned into ultra boxing, with like no end. And there's no finish line. And then that was sort of the analogy I pulled off it in a way, was that, we're used to sort of chasing a carrot sometimes. Or, when we're racing, the race will sort of be the carrot. At least you kind of know what it looks like. Now it's kind of a nub just hanging out there, and you're like, I don't know if this is even worth chasing half the time, but there's going to be something else out there. And I rarely post on Instagram, but the other day I posted a glass that had water in it, and it was like well below half. And I said, as always, half full, And it was kind of that's how I was sort of thinking about it. It was like, and I get it, and it's really easy to get angry right now. I've been in and out of anger moments, and I know that a lot of times I know all the time that's on me, sort of. It's like, how do I spin this, or how do I look at it differently? And what's the lesson here? Because anger usually is, I don't know, they have a saying for it, but you know what I mean? It's like,
they have a saying, it's called, you're pissed. I think that's what
pissed off, but it's really something else going on. So I guess that's what makes you dig. And I think it's easy to get angry right now when, I think about all the first timers or the early, the triathletes that are just getting in the sport, and how jacked they were last Christmas to get their new, aero helmet and like their new bike or whatever it is. And then the year spins, and then all of a sudden it's like, I'm training for Ironman Texas, or not Texas, but like, something later in the year. And all of a sudden it's like, no, you're not. You're not doing it. You're training for something else. And what the heck is that?
Yeah.
Of course it's, I want to lose weight. I want to feel better or whatever. But these are just sort of, well, I guess the weight one you can kind of use as a carrot, but just to feel better and to be in shape and hopefully be able to do an Ironman. I don't know. Because even when my first year, right, we were doing Wisconsin. It was September. It was August, and the race was in September. And you're sitting there going, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure if I can do this, but you can, and that's what I know now, right? But that when you haven't done something like that, it's really hard to formulate in your head the idea that I can actually do I've actually done the work, and I'm good enough shape right now to do that Ironman that I've been training for. But until you actually go out there and put those things together, you don't necessarily 100% believe it. It's difficult. So that's something that I think it's important to understand, and I've talked about it before with my workouts where I'll be like supposed to swim 4,000 and I swim 3,000. I'm like, I know I can go 4,000 and I feel good about that. But I think if you're newer to the sport and you've got all these doubts and you're trying to do even a half, even an Olympic, whatever, sprint, and until you actually do it, it's kind of hard to believe. So that's, I think, where a lot of us are right now on some level.
No, I know. I totally, I love what you said there about, towards the beginning of saying that one of the hardest things is that you just don't know how many rounds you're going to be in the ring for.
Yeah.
Until you know the exact opponent. It's just like you're waking up every day, you're heading to the gym, you're hopping in the ring, and every day it's a new opponent, and you don't know how many days in a row you're going to have to do it. You don't know how many rounds you're going to have to go. You just have to just show up. And I think that alone is what is making life difficult for so many athletes and how they're trying to navigate things is that decision-making process of, like yesterday, for example, and we see this every time a race falls, they give out, a slew of deferral options. And then what you see is this huge rush for athletes to move their chips. And it's like they're at a table and it's like, all right, your chips are in front of, Chattanooga 70.3, all your chips. They're all behind Chattanooga 70.3.
This is a real Vegas.
And then, yeah, it is a dun-dun-dun. And so, Chattanooga 7.3 falls, and then they give her all the deferral options, and there's like this mad dash to pick up your chips and immediately put them in front of one of the deferral options, because we've got to have our chips on the table. Like, I was joking with last night while I was having dinner at the house, and I mean, I get the emails and, the scoop and the Facebook posts that I see, like last night, Atlantic 7.3 gets canceled. It's not even 5 minutes before it goes live. And I've got emails forwarded, text messages. It's like, all right, Atlantic 7.3 is canceled. That's not even until late next month, or middle of next month rather. And it's got a slew of deferral options, and the basis of the conversation is, all right, so which one's it going to be for next year? And where can I move all of my it's not training chips. It's where can I move my not expiration date, but when can I move my end date to give me a new timeline to work through? Because athletes love working through timelines. They love working through progressions. They love being able to check boxes. They love knowing when there's an end that's going to be. But some of the best poker players you'll see, like if you ever watch them, sometimes they'll just get up from the table and walk away and take a break and then come back later. They feel like they're not mentally or emotionally engaged, because you will get burnt out over a period of time if you continue to move from race to race to race to race. I get it in terms of trying to stay engaged, but I think it's a really great time to, like you were saying about anger, like it's a great time to question intrinsically why I feel like I have to have it right now. Like there is no deadline, like there is in terms of deferring the race, but it's not something that's so immediate you have to rush to do it, unless it's going to calm your anxiety of having something. But even then, it's over a year away for a lot of these races. And even then, a lot of people say that's unknown. However you want to look at it, like it's always good to look back and think, and work through that, which again is why most people don't like to do it, because you have to look internally. Okay, really, why am I feeling this? Why am I unmotivated? Why is my commitment wavering? Is it a true, waver, or is it I just don't have the energy because life is pulling me so many different directions? Is it because my stress level is high? Is it because I'm not feeling confident about my training? Is it because I'm overworked, or is it because I don't have a clear goal or a clear focus? Or it's all those things you can question. And I think that, but in questioning those things and in really working hard inside to work through them, like, first of all, there's nothing wrong with being angry, pissed off, upset, frustrated, scared, anxious. None of those feelings are wrong. Like, I think that's something that's that we need to get across, because I think a lot of people are trying to, not a lot of people, but I think I see a lot of people trying to be shamed one way or the other for feeling these things about all these different things. Feelings are true and because they're yours, and they come from a place of your own reality, and I think they're important to respect, even when they're not the same fears or the same anger, the same frustrations that someone else has. It's important to respect that, because we all come from a different place. We all have different thoughts and feelings. And like yesterday morning, you and I had to make a pretty big decision, and I ended up getting pretty frustrated, and I was pissed, but I was also super upset. And I had to think through, all right, well, why am I really upset? Like, why did this matter so much to me that I'm feeling this right now? And if I am feeling this right now, then this aspect of it was important to me, which was, making sure this thing happened, great. And I mean, that's the place that we're sitting in right now, our C26 hub. Like, the reason we built it, the reason we've spent over a year putting it together, being a part of this process, was to be able to offer something to people that can help them, not just help them with triathlon, but help them with life, and deliver that to them as a gift to our athletes, to athletes we don't even know, but to really the endurance sports and triathlon community. And that's what we've wanted. And then, so I sat with those feelings, and we'll still be able to do that, but it just won't happen in like the next day or two like we wanted. And then as I was working through it, we were talking on the bike, and I thought, okay, well, there's really nothing preventing us from still doing that. It's like, it might not be the way that I wanted it to be today or tomorrow, but if you really truly understand why you feel a certain way, whether it's good or bad, then you can propel yourself in that direction if you're able to, and if you have the confidence and really the flexibility to mold your wants and your needs into something different. Just because it's not going to have the same quote unquote answer doesn't mean you won't get the same result. Mm-hmm. And that means doing the things that we need to do to, if we can't, physically bring as many people to the hub as we want to every single day right now, because so many people have travel restrictions, things they want to do, which is totally understandable. It doesn't mean we can't bring the hub to them and still be able to, influence and affect people's lives in a positive way, which is what we wanted to do in the first place. So I think it's about being flexible. I think it's about understanding why your feelings and why your thoughts are the way they are. And then, like, one of my favorite quotes is like, don't bring me your problems, bring me your solutions. Like, it's okay to bring up a problem, but think through it before you voice a problem. Or, so many people want to just voice complaints 24/7. They hate this, they hate that, or there's this. And it's okay, well, then also sit with it long enough to figure out why you feel that way. And then, bring me some solutions along with it that are not just, you don't have to solve the exact problem, but find a way that you can spin it to where you can still find yourself in a positive way and doing something that you really love, which is, for a lot of people, it is triathlon, whether it's finding different kinds of races, whether it's, finding a specific focus within training to be really engaged with, and just to really know that no matter what, the process is you, right? The process is not triathlon. The process is you, how you think, how you feel, how you train. The healthier you get, the happier you get. Like, those are the end results that you all want. Or should want, I think, and you want performance-based goals, and that's where races come in handy. But even if those were removed, that doesn't change anything. Like, you can still gain all of those positive things from training. Like, the races being canceled, like, it might take out the one day. And I think that's important to remember. Like, most athletes race 3-4 times a year, or one big race a year. So the other 360, maybe even plus days of the year, it's business as usual. And you can still gain all of those positive and healthy things, the relationships, the connections, the training, the health benefits, and what it does for your mental and emotional health. Like, all those things are still available. And I think that that we kind of right now have to either revert back into reminding ourselves of that, because it's not quote unquote race season right now for a lot of people, but that those opportunities are still there. And I know, listen, it's hard to navigate. I'm not here trying to tell you that it's not, it's not difficult.
Easy. Get your ass out there and just do it.
Yeah. Just get your ass out. Just do it, man. That's just toughen up. Just toughen up there, Timmy.
The race analogy is a good one, I think, just in general life, because it is something that's sort of out there that kind of keeps us focused, and we can think about, and it's sort of our reward or whatever like that. But, just in normal everyday life, we're kind of going through that too, because that whole thing about like the social media world right now is just a weird one. We got to face that. I think it's really important, because I think it trains us, and whether it's our phones or our texting or our whatever it may be, it trains our brains to be searching for that hit of something all the time. And we know there's alternatives, right? Like, I've been thinking about this lately, for example. It's like, I kind of get on there. I'm just like engaged sometimes in Twitter, like, or just because we do Facebook and the podcast and Instagram, whatever it may be. I find myself kind of going back there and back there, back. And I know that I don't have to go there. Nobody has to do that shit, right? We don't have to. But the alternative now is like, okay, what does that mean? I just think it's a tougher road to go down when you say, all right, I'm going to pull myself out of that, like, instant engagement, that instant dopamine fix, whatever it is, and we talk about. And I'm going to try something different. And I always talk about being in the moment and living in the moment. But when you don't have, like, I think the fear sometimes becomes is like, oh, this macro fear that life's not going to be the same, or like the races may not. I mean, like, there's a small part in my brain that's like, what if races are just weird now, or they don't come back? And that's kind of a depressor, or that doesn't do much for my high of dopamine high or whatever. So it's like it kind of creates this circle. And we were talking also yesterday about how this very nature of kind of having to stay away from each other, and this isolation package that's put together now, and the fact that, just stuff's not open, and, the life as we knew it has kind of been altered. And like, I was talking to an athlete last night, and he's still kind of keeping his hopes up about a race later in the year, within reason, because it's, we know it's like, probably not going to happen, but still it's a ways away, and so you gotta kind of keep focus on it. But the reality is, with all this isolation and with the kind of way life is for a lot of people right now, he was like, yeah, I'm still about 10 or 12 pounds overweight. And I'm like, well, dude, this whole environment that we're looking at right now is creating this sort of need, or that comfort food kind of, we want more comfort, right? So don't beat yourself up for that, because, I've been trying to do a better diet and just eating better during the day. And then, like, last night again, I went all pizza. Southside pizza, man. And that's a weird, I like that place. It's really good food, but there's some weird experiences going on down there for me, but I'm good with it. Everything's fine. But my point is like, we're human, so we're vulnerable to a lot of stuff, and just the way, I guess, I don't want to say we've been groomed, but the way sort of technology has entered our life at such a fast pace over the last really 20 years or 15 to 20 years, it's very new. And it's very shiny, and it's very attractive, and it's like so easy to escape in there. And now your escape is like, one day your candidate's on fire, and the next day he says something stupid. And then it's like it affects your mood, right? Like, and I say that just because, like, I don't know about you guys, but, at least 50% of what I see posted anymore is something related to the election or whatever. And I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just saying that the reality is that there's something down the future. And it's sort of kind of ironic that, that the big, we've been talking about races getting canceled or postponed and, whatever. And now, like, the election's sort of the same way. Will it even happen? And it's like, what? So how can we ground ourselves with no stabilized sort of future in a way? It's kind of, the dates all seem like weird now, and I don't know. Next thing you know is my birthday even going to come off in October?
You better hope so.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll find a backup for the
that
podcast.
day should happen, but you never know. I mean, that maybe these calendars are like a problem.
All birthdays are canceled from here on out for the rest of the year. So you'll be stuck at 41 years old.
Yeah, in a way, I guess I wouldn't mind. I mean, there's a lot of holidays. There's a lot of like, you can go all into that too, but like, hey, there's like every day is something, and like
National Donut Day.
You investigate that into like, why do we need all that? Why can't we but it's hard. I think human nature wants to see something concrete and sort of talk about it and celebrate it. And it's so much harder. I've been doing meditation more, and I got this nice balcony. So I've been just sitting out there, and that's just really hard to sit there and kind of just let everything be as it is. Doesn't seem like there's an end to that, but if you can switch your mentality around into like, hey, this is good for me long term. I don't know why or whatever, but calming everything down a little bit has to be a good thing. And it certainly feels better, but it's just hard to keep track of, something if you're not seeing concrete results all the time.
Well, I think for most people, their sense of what can be or should be concrete has been flipped. I think the way that we've been conditioned via social media and our access to so many things and assuming that we have so much control in life is to look at birthdays, holidays, events on the calendar, races, training sessions that are scheduled in the future as concrete, as we assume they're always going to happen. And then when they don't, the things that we have now considered not concrete, which is our reactions and how we choose to deal with them, are put into like a total chaos because it's now turned into our reaction to things that we assumed were concrete, that we assumed we could count on, that now they are no more. The kids are going back to school September 1st. Now it's been moved to September 18th. Now it's moved again into October, whenever. Like it's a constant moving thing. And so your reactions, it's all cause and effect based on the wrong things. Because if you really want to dig down deep and look at it in terms of how we should deal with our mental, and again, I'm not a psychologist, but in how we should like deal with our own emotions, it's like the only concrete things we can do is focus on ourselves. Like we should be our biggest cheerleaders. We should be like we can all make decisions each day on how if today is going to be a success or a massive failure, or I'm going to be, or I'm going to veer off into this, temper tantrum of complaining and the woe is me and the world is against me and everything's falling apart and oh my God, 2020 is the worst year ever. And like you keep talking like that, well, guess what? Yeah, your life's going to suck. I'm sorry. It just is. Or you can think of it, all right, well, the world is happening around me. I have a specific choice for me to either look at things, and I'm not saying like you have to be period positive pants. Like I'm not saying you can't be mad and frustrated and upset. Like you can be those things, because I think a lot of people just ignore that and they're in total denial and they're always quote unquote happy until they have like a massive breakdown because they've been faking it.
Keep an eye on those people.
You can have those feelings, but then also work through them and think, okay, I'm done with that. It's also because it's okay to have those thoughts and feelings for 5, 10, 15, however long you need to have them, but then work through them and figure out, okay, well, now what am I going to do about it? Now how can I proactively decide to make a positive change? Or it's not about flipping things into a positive way. Like we always say, we're being an optimist, or we're being half glass full, or we're being, you're just, looking, for everything that's a shining light and, through the darkness. And I'm like, dude, just like, why can't we just wake up and think, you know what, today I'm going to find a way, no matter what, to do my best in every aspect, even if I get punched in the gut, even if I get knocked in the face, even if something gets canceled, even if school moves, I can still make a conscious decision to either, adapt and think of, okay, well, life is changing around me, not happening to me. How can I positively continue to move forward and still achieve the things that I want to achieve? And I think so many people like leave all of their doors wide open on purpose to let life just seep in and think, and affect everything that they do via excuses and extra obstacles and complaining and, oh, well, it's, it's just ruining everything. And, it's COVID, and, it's this, and, I can't do this, and, I can't do this. And, and like, we've dealt with that, like in a lot of ways with like, opening this business, like, well, COVID's changed things. Well, COVID's changed things. Well, COVID's changed things. And sure, it has. Okay. That's great. Now tell me how we can move past that and figure out a way to still accomplish what we want to accomplish. Like, or so you can do those things, and it's changed a lot for now. But instead of like sitting on those, like, okay, well, it has changed now. We have to wait. We have to wait for things to filter themselves out and figure things out. And same things we do with training. I have to wait for the races to do. It's like, no, you can still be proactive every single day. You can still get bad news and choose, all right, I got the bad news. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to deal with it. And then I'm going to move on and figure out, because I still have things I want to do with my life. I still have things I want to accomplish. I still have races I want to do. I still want to get better. I still want to be in better shape. Like, none of those thoughts and feelings just like dissipate. They don't go away. And so, like, it's the same reason that like so many people think that, well, why am I training right now if I'm not having any races? Like, people, I legit don't think that people understand from a physiological aspect that like training is never wasted. You don't just always go back to, I'm starting over. Generally speaking, no one ever starts over. You just start back from the fitness you got based and minus the time you took off. So the more fitness that you gain, the larger base you create, the better physiological adaptations you have during training, outside in the heat, doing whatever it is in the summertime. You don't just take a few months off and then they just like go back to zero like they did back in 2017 doing the same thing. That's not how it works. You still have those things. And so people are still finding a way to do that. People are still motivated. Like, you just have to want to get better. And if you don't want to get better, you're going to find reasons and excuses to not do it. Like, I don't understand why we can't wake up and we can't just think, you know what? Yeah, you know what? The world sucks. And guess what? It sucked for a while now in a lot of ways. Like, we have now just one thing to focus on in terms of like obstacles and things to get through and things to focus on. And we all now have this one blame game we can have, which is, people will, throw it in a political way or call it the pandemic. It's like everyone wants to blame a political party or religious affiliation or people who don't like these people. And like, everyone wants to blame things. Listen, the world's been a pretty tough place to live in, I don't know, since the day I was born. It's all relative. And so if you think about, just wake up and try to get better at something, and don't be so easily shifted into, oh man, well, today's just terrible. I can't do it today. The whole world's against me. It's not going to happen. Races are going to cancel. I think I'm just going to throw it. Like, if you're that easily shifted into that mode, then you were never concreted in the first place. And I think that's what we can do right now, is find ways in the simplest form, because the more simple things are, that I think the easier they are to concrete. The more entertaining and the more fancy things get, and I think it's hard to root yourself into those things because they're more for decoration than they are for actual substance. And so if we focus on the simplistic things, so they're just actions and the things we can do each day, even if it's a 25-minute run versus an hour run, they're both better than doing a 0-minute run. In terms of what you want to accomplish, and just gaining that, participating in those habits and creating better behaviors, and just consciously making a choice to just not throw in the towel and just keep getting back in the ring.
Yeah, man, what you said is about the fitness. You're not starting over. It's just starting again, or whatever it may be. And that's such a great point. It's like with you, have you been swimming lately?
Not in the last 2 weeks. I've biked and ran.
Okay, but yeah, so you're a lifelong swimmer, and sometimes there's been several times since I've known you where you've been getting back in the water and trying to get it back, and I think that probably, you've told me, like, man, that ate me up today or whatever in the beginning, and then it comes back to you faster than probably a lot of people that haven't spent a lifetime swimming, and same can go for biking and running if you've had that history. I think the difficult part sometimes becomes when you're kind of up when you've hit some of your like potentials. Like, we talk about that. Like, when you're starting this sport, you see a lot of like personal bests and things. You're always knocking down your fastest time from the week before, and you always see that progress. But as you get into the sport for a longer time, it's harder to see progress because they're smaller gains, and sometimes you're not sure if you believe them and things of that nature. So I think that we're just in the toughest part of that too, because when you don't have that extra mental oomph of I got to get in there for this race, I think that's like that, sort of juice that kind of pops you over the top sometimes. So But I'm totally in agreement with what you're saying. It's like we always have a chance to feel better, and I don't think I've ever met anybody who said, "Man, I just went for a 30-minute run and I feel worse." But I think it's very difficult to quantify that feeling of just feeling better. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, especially like a person like you or me that like sort of have addictive natures. I think a lot of us in this sport have addictive natures because and I think the greatest way to almost articulate that sometimes is like if I've gone for many group runs, maybe they've been an hour, say, or whatever. We get done and we go for coffee, and it's like it feels great, man, but I just need some more on top of that. I need to pick myself higher and higher and higher, and I think one of the hardest things in the world to do is feel good as you are, no matter how that may be, and a lot of times it's after that run, that runner's high, that vibe, it's a good one, but it's like, okay, now what am I going to do with this? Because I feel pretty damn good right now. How can I feel better?
And how can I top it off?
Yeah, it's like drinking, right? It's like, this isn't quite there yet. I think I could put one more in there and like take it to the next level and the next level and then the next level. And the next thing is you're sleeping and whatever. But it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like that eternal quest for something feeling better. And I don't know if that's just like a human nature thing. I think monks that just sit around, like how can that be good? Well, it is. It is. You're content with what is.
Yeah, I mean, if you like think of like how like monks have like no stress. They have zero idea what stress even is. Like the impact that has on their life based on how they the way they live their life. And I think that is like one of the hardest questions, no matter what we're going through in life. Like, what truly is the best decision for me today? What really is the best decision? Because I'll be like, as a coach, like I say this all the time, if an athlete says, I'm not feeling well, or I'm overstressed, or I have a headache, or, I just have so much going on today. Like, should I get on, the treadmill at 10:30 tonight and do this? No, go to bed. And so like there's sometimes they're contradictory thoughts and feelings on what's truly is best for you. Is it doing your run, or is it, because it really comes down to, I think, like it's managing self-care and the fact that might look different every single day. Like I was going back to the boxing and the ring analogy because I was using this yesterday with an athlete, was that I'm not saying get up and get out there and just get punched in the face every day. Like you might actually just choose, you know what, today I don't need to get back in the ring. I need to take a day off. I need to chill. I need to go get a massage. I need to read a book. I need to take a hike with my kids. But the reason I'm doing that today is so I can get back in the ring tomorrow. It's not I'm throwing in the towel, I'm done, I'm walking out, I'm never getting back in the ring again, or I'm not getting back for 2 months. It's, okay, well, I've been in the ring, I've been training, I've been dealing with life, I've been dealing with, work and family and relationships and stress and health and training and race cancellations, the economy and kids going back to school. Oh, man, I can't do it today. It's not I quit doing it. It's I can't do it today because I know that I want to get back in the ring. Because the way that I think we should look at it is, you keep getting back in the ring because listen, like at some point, if you keep getting back in the ring, you're going to be the only person left in the ring. And everyone else who's walked away or has decided to stop training or to give up on life or to give up on anything, they're no longer going to be participating in the same event you are. They're just going to walk away. And someday you're going to wake up, you're going to walk into the ring, and you're going to realize that, man, all those days that I spent getting up, and I'm not saying you need in like a masochistic kind of way, like to take beatings every day, because you shouldn't, but you got to find a way to use that as a positive, like one of my favorite books, as you know, Ryan Holiday, we should basically be a sponsor or something, is, his book, Obstacles Away, literally changed my life in a way that I was going through an incredibly difficult period, just getting sober. The first 2 or 3 years were the hardest years of my life. It was, yes, the time before I got sober was incredibly difficult. It was very, very hard, but I was so numb and oblivious to it all. I was dying in misery and had no idea. But then once I got life, being sober, then it was like, how it was for me. body shot, body shot, body shot. And then,
man.
I was taking them left and right. And then I got hit with a couple uppercuts and it was like, how are you going to respond? Are you going to keep walking away? Are you going to find a way each day to do like just small things that make you feel, and like for 3 years, I woke up every day and I went on a walk and I said the same meditation, the same prayer every single morning. I did them no matter where I was, no matter what I was doing, I did them when I was racing. I would go into the porta-john and I would do them in there because I just have like a moment to myself. It smelled, but it's like it's close to the moment you can get to is like transition in the morning. It's like I need a
real personal place.
It was a personal place. It's like, how can I get more connected than porta-john, or like focus and meditate, but it's like I did these things that grounded me, and I just chose to believe that even though I didn't know if things were going to be okay, even if I didn't know how my life was going to end up, even, like if you'd have asked me, like 4 or 5 years ago, like, how do you think your life's going to end up? I have no idea. Definitely wouldn't have thought I'd be sitting in this chair next to you in a 2,000 square foot training center we just built, doing what we're doing and living in Chattanooga. Never would have guessed any of that because I was living in Kansas City, then back in Nashville. And I didn't assume anything. I didn't assume specifics of what great things or what positive things might come of my life. But what I chose to do was chose to believe that if I just get up and just do the right thing every day and just work hard, then everything else will work itself out. And you will end up in a positive place versus either sabotaging your life and throwing it away, which is what most people do. They because the work and the effort that goes into just not blindly hoping, but just positively enduring what life throws at you is so hard. It is really easy to just self-sabotage and just straight give up. And then you just take, because people get comfortable with that. People are comfortable with that right now. Like people are sitting at home every day getting comfortable. And this is like one of my biggest fears right now, because I've heard athletes tell me about it, is that they're getting comfortable in their own misery and in their own isolation. And it scares the hell out of me because this, I've even mentioned this on the podcast before, like if this state of time had happened to me before I got sober, you would have never probably heard from me ever again. Yeah. I would have been off the rails. It would have been horrible. So during this period after I got sober, it was, you can positively choose to endure everything, not because you're naive, but because you just genuinely think that what's the other alternative? I can either start drinking again and ruin my life, or I can wake up every day and just, that's one of my very first sponsors was like, dude, you really just have to wake up every day and choose to do the next right thing. And if you do that, then you're probably going to end up okay. And you're like, wait a minute, that's way too simple. I need like a 48-page handbook with these very strict rules and regulations on how to do things. And so obviously I made tons of mistakes along the way, but that's what I chose to do. And then at some point down the road, I was like, all right, I'm like, I'm still in life and life is hard, but I was like, I moved past it all, but it wasn't this like feeling that I woke up with. It was just like, it became a way of life in a way. And I'm obviously not like the most perfect example of anything in life really, but I was able to navigate a period of time that was incredibly difficult and still, I have, spoken before at treatment centers and gone through things, and people have asked like, how did you do it? How do you, like, when did you know? And the legit answer is I literally have no idea. Because if you scale things back, and it's like, if you look at, the same thing with races, if you look and say, oh, well, man, how did you get that time? What did you do? You can't specifically go back to, well, 3.5 weeks ago, there was this one workout that I did and I nailed it. And that's why I was able to go, sub 6 hours in my 70.3 today. It's never that. It's, well, I've worked really, really hard the last 2 to 3 years and I've been super consistent and I've stayed really healthy and I just kind of ended up here. It's never that one moment. It's the accumulation of all these moments. And so I think that's the point I'm trying to get across, is that like, what kind of moments and choices and feelings and thoughts are you accumulating right now? Are you accumulating as many negative, complaining, critical thoughts as possible? Because those become who you are and what you do and how you live your life. Or are you trying to accumulate as many positive and, purposeful and thoughtful and, grateful moments as you can that's recharging you and concreting you in making that who you are? Because down the road, you can either look back and think this period in life made me stronger, or it crushed me. And how is that going to propel you in the future to be able to deal with future things? And I think it's just an important discussion and conversation to have with ourselves as people and as athletes, that, it's not about, it's accumulation. We talk about cumulative fatigue all the time, but it's also like, how you think, how you feel, how you act. And those are all choices. All of them are.
There's a lot of there. It really is good, man. At the core, I love what you said about how you got up every morning and just did it, and you didn't know what it meant. I mean, really, in a way, you were just sort of describing faith, and you had at some point in you, for some way, you had restored that faith, I guess, and that belief that you're going in the right direction, and even if you couldn't see it at the time. And I think that's something that is really important too about, we all have goals, right? And I think that one of the challenges, at least for me right now, and in life, and it doesn't even like last year, say, so it's not anything to do with what's going on right now, is I feel like with the advent of the ability to communicate instantly with a lot of people across the web through your posts, I feel like there's a everybody wants to be the smartest person in the room kind of thing going on. And it's sort of like, it's not about, like, everybody wants to have the right answer. Like, everybody wants to, like, no, this is what it is. And like, none of us really know. And then, like, if you've got a goal for 5 years, you want to be, CEO of blank company or whatever. And, like, what happens when something just derails that or whatever? I think it's best to, I think it's good to have, I've always had this thing about goals, right? I'm like, goals, I think, a lot of people are like, you gotta have goals. And I'm like, oh, I get it. But to your point, it's one thing to have goal, like put it out there and then sort of set it and forget it kind of thing. And then do what you did, was like, do the next best thing right now, or the thing that's, what's the best thing to do right now in a general direction of that goal, rather than, because things change, right? I think that's been the frustrating part about us, is like, everybody wants that to happen now. We want it to, we got okay, so now we need this, it needs to happen now. Like, this thing has to be booming, and people coming in and out. We're throwing t-shirts at everybody and hanging mugs. And, you know what I mean?
Shirt like, cannon.
It's like, just like the confetti flying everywhere and whatever. And we have it's sort of this picture we paint in our heads, and then every day, something that gets in the way of that big celebration gets on our nerves. Or I'm saying us as in everybody, whatever your goal is or whatever it is, or you wake up and you don't feel like doing your run or whatever, and you're like, ugh. Then the first thought you have is like, man, I'm not going to be ready for that race or whatever it may be. And still, we get wrapped up in these goals, and like I said, goals are a good thing, but I think there's much more power in what you said about do the next right thing. And but that's so hard, dude. When you're saying that, I didn't know that even, that you got up every day and walked and said the same stuff. And it's like, dude, I think that is the answer to life, to be honest. I mean, it's like, screw goals, screw all this stuff. If you can do that and get your head straight and just sort of go through the day with your head straight.
Well, goals are not 100% up to us. Yeah, and I think that we forget that. We have these goals, we have these wants, we have these desires and these needs and these expectations, and we feel like, we are responsible. You are the one that wakes up every day. You go do the grind. You go beat yesterday. You go crush it. The goals are your own, and if you fail, it's on you. First of all, that's all BS, because you're ending up at a specific goal isn't solely up to you. It's up to life, right? Because think of this year. How many of you been meeting your goals? Hearing crickets. Yeah. It's because you have these expectations that something's going to happen, and life interferes, and it doesn't mean you're not capable of reaching a goal. It just means it might not be, and I think it's the hardest thing for people to wrap their brain around, is it's probably just not going to happen on your timeline. It's not going to happen when you wanted to. And we use that example when we talk about training, is that when you try to go out and forcefully, with so much tension and pressure and stress, try to force yourself into a great workout, it usually ends up in epic destruction and failure and walking your butt home, or picking up your bike and asking for a ride, or getting out of the pool early, or having a terrible race. But when you just wake up and you participate in a journey and a process that you know is positive, that you just do a little bit of something each day, then 4 months down the road, you wake up and you do your same route, and you look down and you think, oh my God, how did I do that? It just happens. And the same thing goes with, racing and progressions, and with life. Like, you want to do something with your life, or you want to impact people. It just kind of happens as you just continuously do the same things that you just feel are right. They're not huge. You're not making giant decisions every day. Not all those small decisions and commitments and things you choose to do each day will lead to hopefully positive things, but you're still not going to be able to look back on it and think, that was the day. That was the one day that changed my triathlon life. I was able to do, 5 1-mile repeats on the track, and ever since then, man, I've been a whole different animal. No, it's about being consistent with really anything, because that's how we change the view of ourselves. It is like, that was the biggest thing for me, is like, I was rarely consistent with anything in life. I never believed in myself. I never really truly thought I could do anything worthwhile or anything positive or be a part of anything and stick with it long enough to see it all the way through. And so by, and sobriety is the biggest, for me, is like the biggest one day at a time. Like, there is no end date, right? Like, it's not like, oh, well, if I'm sober until it's not like a switch that turns off. Like, if you're sober and you follow the steps and you do this, like, if you make it to 5 years, you're golden. You're never going to want to drink it. You're never going to have to do it again. Or, it's like you're cured.
It's a constant pandemic.
It's right. Well, it's not like that. It's like,
no, but I mean, it's like you don't know that. Yeah. It's like,
well, there's no, and the truth is, and it's also not like, well, if you can stay sober for 10 years and after that,
right,
you can drink again and it'll be normal. And you don't get that either. It's just like this never ending journey you have to be on. And just know and be so like concrete in it, but also understanding that, it doesn't work like that for everyone. For relapsing is this part of most people's story, and you have to understand and respect that too. So it's just like, it's one of those things where you have to acknowledge it, but at the same time, like, going back to like having a fear-based mentality. And because I was there, like in treatment and I've been in AA rooms, and like I kept into contact with for a long time all the people that I was in treatment with over 90 days, and so many of them haven't made it, and there's plenty of them that are no longer with us. And a lot of what brought them down was that assumption that, well, you know what, dude, I'm gonna fail at some point. Like, I'm not going to make it my whole life without failing. There was a specific moment. We were doing primary group, was when everybody in your house would get together in this room, and there was 12 of you, and like, you would do group therapy with 2 different therapists. And the therapist who he's actually a really good friend of mine now, like almost 7 years later. He was my therapist when I lived back in Nashville, once, he quit working there. But he would look at you and he would say, are you going to relapse again? And if you said no, he would say, you're a liar. He would say, you're lying, because at some point you are, and you have to understand that, which I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's like, he was trying to, the point was that you have to understand that very well could be part of your story, but it doesn't mean it has to be the end, right? It just means it's a blip along the road. It's, one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to was when Rich Roll talked about him, when he took a drink and then got back on. He was very open about it on his podcast, but that's why so many people in recovery, it's not why, it's one of their reasons I think they think their way there, is that they're like, well, I'm going to fail at some point. I'm going to trip up at some point. What's the point in being good or following the rules or not drinking for months when I'm eventually going to do it anyway? So why not just do it now? And then you think yourself into rationalizing, and obviously there's a whole lot else going on in their brain and their mind that gets to that point, but that's the rationalization. And we think humans in general use that. It's like, well, it's gonna suck at some point. My races are gonna cancel at some point. I'm gonna lose my job at some point. Why not just throw the towel in and just do whatever, instead of just like, first of all, you don't know, and you don't know when it's gonna happen. You don't know how it's gonna go, but what you can do is just wake up and do the things that you feel like are right. Because even if I looked back at myself and thought, because people ask me this all the time. And again, I don't mean to make this like a recovery ending to the podcast, but like, are you ever, and you're just going back to like doing the small things each day that make you successful. And sobriety for me is my ultimate success every day is, how do you like, are you ever tempted to drink? Do you ever want to drink? Are you ever, are you comfortable with me drinking around you? And this, I have no problem with people drinking around me. It doesn't faze me. It doesn't bother me. I don't want to drink. We could be all out to dinner. People could order wine and beer all around me. It doesn't bother me. I'm very thankful that it doesn't. It's not true for everyone.
Right.
But for me, it's like, well, if I look at the most common denominator in my life and what I had then versus what I have now, why would I even like want to tempt? Like why would I even want that to introduce that thing into my life? And that's because that's how things have gone, because I chose to do something every day because it was, it's life or death for me in a lot of ways. But for the way that we live, it's not that so dramatic in terms of life or death, but it's just like the small things that you do add up to incredible accomplishments over time. Being consistent and just, not grinding away, but just getting up and just, some days you're taking body shots, some days you're giving them, like to life, and you're just like absolutely dominating life in every aspect, but you don't know unless you get in the ring, and then you wake up 6 or 7 years later and you think, like, what the hell? Like I walked out of treatment. I think I saw you like 2 or 3 days later. We went to the pharmacy. I remember we ate with Meg Willoughby, and it was in February, and I had no money, no car. Allie had to pick me up from a halfway house, and I literally had nothing. I had like a bag because I had been evicted from my apartment. I had literally nothing going on in my life. Like I had nothing. I had just like 48 hours earlier, I was just excited that my dog recognized me after being 3 months away. I had like a beard and like I was like this totally different person. It was all scary and new. And then to fast forward to like today, it's like if I had a thought to myself, all right, in 7 years, I've got to have my own training center, and I've got to, I've got to have accomplished all these things. And I would have forced and been unhappy and probably taken shortcuts and doing all these things that I would have gone nowhere. Like I would have accomplished nothing, and then, but just from waking up and trying to do positive things, and obviously with a whole other slew of things along the way, it's like, and then here you are. And I think that's like the important thing to realize in a nutshell is just like, one day you just wake up and realize, and we need to remind ourselves of here we are. And if you look back 8 years ago or 10 years or 15 or just a year ago and you think, man, I never thought I'd be here, or I'm here, and this might be rough, but there's also been times in my life where things have been incredible and I had no idea how I got here. Life can always change, and we can be a part of life and a part of our own lives and making it really as good as we want it to be, even with so much crap going on.
Mm-hmm. That effort moment is just always lingering, right? And that's what I was getting out of your, like the people that, if you go through treatment or something, it's just effort, And that's the thing you got to build up, I guess, I don't know, calluses in a way towards, or just sort of like, gently push them out of the room over time. And so they're not even around, that thought isn't even around. And, I think it's important. I think that's a great way to end. I just want to say that I think it's very important that moment you're talking about at the pharmacy when you had nothing and you didn't know what was going on, and the idea that, if I thought to myself 7 years from now I'd be sitting where we are today, I think it's important to recognize that we can't do that today either. Even though, we have this, and it's so easy to start thinking about what could be from here. And I think that's always something that's a kind of a motivator and keeps you going. But like, again, appreciate what you have right now, because it's pretty cool. We're just sitting in 2 chairs and doing a podcast. And this is, to me, is like, in a way, this is something like, shit, I could probably do this all the time. You know what I mean? It's sort of just hanging out, talking and getting to the bottom of it and having a conversation about good stuff and nothing contentious, and we're just trying to figure it out. And that's sort of what feels like my life mission on some ways is I just want to figure it out, or at least enjoy that process and not try to, get something that, I don't even know if it's going to make me happy, but it seems like it's going to today, but it's not even here. All we have is this. So
yeah, it really comes down to, like, I think, like what you said about it's still going forward like that. It's, you have what you have because you did what you did, not because you wanted what you want. Because you can want things all you want, but if you don't do the work and you don't put things into action and you don't do the best you can each day, like you're either never going to get there, or the timeline might change, or it's just all going to be different. So you just have to, if you just go back and think like, how did I get here? What am I doing? Oh yeah, I was just waking up and doing the same thing I've always did, and all I gotta do is kind of, it's not all you have to do. You still have to be smart and proactive and be responsible, but it's, if you look back at like the core of what always got you to where you ended up being that you loved, you can still do those things. It's the timeline, I think, that crushes people's souls, is that it doesn't happen on their timeline, and to them they see that as defeat. And I guess for most people the answer really is just, it wasn't quite time yet. It wasn't, just because it's not your time doesn't mean it wasn't on time, and maybe in the future it won't be your time.
Yeah. And it really doesn't matter if you can't just be happy now with what you have now, because that's not going to change it, whatever that big dream is going to be. So let's wrap her up, man.
Let's wrap her up. Sweet dreams. Good night. No.
Good night. Thanks for checking in.
Yeah, thanks for checking in. No, it's hey, it's podcast 399. Well, we promise to bring you a very in-depth, data-driven, analytical podcast as Podcast 400. Next Monday, we'll talk about all things how to nail mile 17 of the Ironman in 5 easy, guaranteed ways to make it your fastest split ever.
Yeah, or let's talk about biking calluses, building up your butt strength.
We can do that too. I've been doing that lately. But no, as usual, we always appreciate you tuning in. You can always visit our website, c26triathlon.com, as our one-stop shop for all things camps, community, and coaching. It also has our online hub. You can also visit crushingiron.com, which is a great place. You can actually go now and I believe participate in a interactive Ask the Coach.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have to get stern right now. I know there are thousands of you out there listening.
Sitting back here. Mike's going to use his mom voice.
Go to crushingiron.com. There's a tab on the top of the page, phone or whatever, and it says Ask the Coach. Click that button and vocally ask Coach a question so we can insert it in the podcast. And we'd like to build another segment called Ask the Coach for maybe an outside podcast. But we need you guys to help. We need your help today. So go on to crushingiron.com and be a part of the...
I wish we had some like Sarah McLachlan music to play in the background, like that really depressing adopt a dog commercial that they put on. Like every time I'm like, pick up the phone, I'm like, here's $1 million, give me 17 dogs. That's what we needed right now. Is it Sarah McLachlan or is it Melissa Etheridge? I don't know, one of the two. I don't know, but it rips your heart out. But hey, hopefully we didn't rip your heart out today and squash it like those infomercials do. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. We hope you have a happy and healthy weekend. Hang in there, keep getting in the ring, and we'll see you on Monday.
All right, buddy. See you, man.
See you.